way! What? What? What is this? What is this? What? 15 minutes after 5 my time. I'm sorry. That was not okay. I've been busy figuring out this thing. Oh, I have stuff on my desktop. That's not supposed to be there. Let me get that out of there. Oh, no, it's still there. Hang on. Ah. Okay. Do you notice anything unusual, perhaps? Yes? Anyone? Yes? Yeah, I know. It's still there. Okay. You know, my finest moment with this green screen. I scared you? Well, hey, listen. It's kind of scaring me too. How's it going? No, there's still a little folder there. No, it's all right. It's all right. Everything's fine. I'm very excited. You can hear me okay? Everybody here? Okay. Look at me and my green screen. I know. I might as well start playing Fortnite or something. Now I'm really on Twitch. I finally did the things that I think you're supposed to do, like, the moment you go, if you're going to go live on Twitch, like, you set up the alerts so that people's name pop on screen, when they subscribe or follow you. That's, like, fundamental. I just figured it out. Oh, I can't do this. You see the limits? Help! Ugh. Ow, my arms! Yeah, I know. And you're supposed to, like, get a green screen or something, because if you're playing a game... Sorry, I am kind of mesmerized by how it looks. Yeah, because if you're playing a game... No, it doesn't matter if you're playing a game or not. I don't know. I play one video game, and that is Beat Saber. And yes, one day I may play Beat Saber on Twitch, but that is for another day. Right now, wait, I don't want that to happen. I gotta try to do something. I don't like that. I have to make myself a little smaller. Does that make sense? I don't know, people. Anyway, I'm a little smaller now. I'll just try to keep my arms in. So yeah, you're supposed to, do all this stuff, and it's just taken me a while. But I think you'll notice that every week or so, maybe every 2 weeks, something new happens around here. And I've got new, like, icons for when someone subscribes or follows. So if you haven't subscribed, I think you should, because you will see your name pop up on the screen. And I made, like, a little quilt block thing. Anyway, I'm having fun. This is, like, the basic stuff, but it's good. It's fun. Today's show, we're gonna get into it. I do the intro, kind of the chit chat. Helps me settle down into the groove. You're watching Quilt Nerd, if you didn't know, and this is a show about quilts. We nerd out about them, and if you're like, what does that mean? Like, nerding out about quilts? Like, what is there to nerd out on? Just have a seat. It gets real nerdy up in here. So I do a little intro, welcome the people, my people. We have a little bit of business to take care of, including the group quilt. I know I haven't talked about it much. Yeah, I've been like, okay, you all, we're gonna make a quilt and we'll figure it out. But we should set a few parameters, right? Or at least dimensions of the blocks. I think that would be good. I think that would help. So we'll figure that out. And then we always start with, start the content of the show. Well, then I tell you what the show's about and a little bit why it exists. And then we talk about the quilt that's behind me. It used to be on your screen, and I was like, anyway, it's a green screen now. So the quilt that I'm swimming in is the quilt that we start with, and it's very interesting. And I was so disappointed with myself because I was at the gym, and I did not it was not my best workout because I wish I could have had longer there, but I didn't. But I was doing my little gym thing, and I realized it's Veterans Day. So happy Veterans Day. Thank you to any and all veterans here live, in the chat or lurking or watching this replay later, tomorrow, tonight, 10 years from now. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice. So I'm doing my gym thing and I'm like, obviously I need to do something related to Veterans Day, right? And so I've got some content ready for you, but well, there's no but. It's just a change from what I was going to do. But there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that tonight. And I think it's going to be great. So, who's here? Oh my God. Who's here for the green screen machine? Sorry. Okay. Who we got? Sorry, I was a little bit behind today. I do apologize. Okay, M. Hicks is here. M. Hicks, what's up? 56. Sue is here. Quilting Politics here. I'm in the chat. Oh yeah. I don't know. The music didn't play tonight. I don't know. One thing at a time. Sujan is here. Excellent, Sujan. Quilting Nancy is here. Nose to Quilts. You saw it. I was trying to fix the music and I blipped this screen. Of course. Yeah. It was awesome. Carol Hempel, hello. So glad you could see. I mean, I would be very sad if you did not see my green screen debut. No sound. Okay, Susan Armichael is here. Excellent. Ann Priest is here. Hello. You heard typing? Yeah, that was me furiously typing. Can you hear the music? Until I remembered to turn off the mic. Yeah, okay, good. Fiandor. Hello, Fiandor. Coming in with those tunes. Love it. You were the tunes because the tunes were not playing. Hey, you know what, Sujan? You stick around as long as you can. Life got in the way for me, too. I mean, yeah, it happens. Hey, Faith, 1948. Faith is here. I had faith that you would be here. Hey, Dee Marie. So good to have you here, Dee Marie, as always. Alistrine is here. Excellent. So, Natalie. How's it going, Natalie? And Holmes, my homie. Holmes. Amy, hello. Ooh, you saw a Dear Jane. Oh, the Dear Jane quilt at the Bennington Museum a few weeks ago. Indeed. I was at the Bennington Museum, Vermont, right? I'm trying to think. I don't think it was exhibit. I mean, I think I'd remember. I think it wasn't. But we went there for Quilt Folk. Anyway, a lovely place. Kind of a cranky curator, but it's fine. Just remember she was a little bit cranky. But anyway. Yeah, you want to start a Dear Jane? Hey, man. Do it. I mean, it looks like fun. And, you know, everybody's like, oh, Dear Jane, that quilt is... it's just, one piece at a time. I don't think I'm going to take one for the team and do a Dear Jane, but I think you should. Yeah, same, Faith. I have so many quilts I want to make before I die. Totally. 1,000%. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay, Carol Hempel, you're not starting anything new until you finish 2 whips. I had my cursor over whips, for anyone who doesn't know. Work in progress, okay? Works in progress. I had my cursor over the word whips, and I thought you were typing wigs, that you had 2 wigs to finish before you moved on to your quilts. I don't know your life. Maybe you're making wigs. That's cool. But it's whips, works in progress. Yeah, huge list. I said I'm not gonna start another quilt until I finish my COVID quilt. I'm not taking that quilt into 2022. I started it in 2020. There was lots of moving around. Eric's home. Oh no. I have to keep my arms in. Eric, I have to keep my arms in. Oh, it's so funny when he will you reach your hand in?
I gotta drop something.
Will you just come in? Yeah. Just do one more time. Ah! That's great. Anyway, yes, green screen. Alistrina, it's here. Caitlin, I know it's the green screen. New Elizabeth. Wait, I think I said Elizabeth. I don't know. Okay, sorry. I'm. Hey, write down. New sub. Did you see the little thing pop up? Don't tell me if it didn't happen. Oh my gosh. Regardless, I know I'm taking a little time to get warmed up, y'all. Yeah, it's this thing. It's a new vibe, and I love it. It's so exciting that it's got me all in my feelings. And also the write down, subscribed at tier 1. I so appreciate that. Really, really appreciate it. It helps me. It helps me do this. It's like a little carrot on a stick, having these goals for subscribers and things. And you might notice I've got a goal of 70 subscribers, and we're at 69 now because of the write down. So one more subscriber, and I'll set a new goal. Okay. Hey, Ivana. Excellent. And Kevin's here from the Philly Modern Quilt Guild. The president of the Philly Modern Quilt Guild is in the house. Be on your best behavior, everyone. And, oh, yes. So the write down, will you possibly be in Boston with us? Possibly. Interesting. That would be lovely. Hey, it's Mouse. It's Mouse. Mouse, you've been here before, but I think it's been a while. I'm very glad you're here. You're here for the big green screen event. And you've got a retreat starting tomorrow. That's awesome. Okay, good. Okay, I'm caught up in the chat. Eric's home. Life can begin here. Okay. So, briefly, this show is about being curious together, and we could be curious about the whole world and bounce from this to that and, talk about philosophy and politics. Maybe not that, but we could talk about art and, history and all of that. But, where would you start with all of that? That would be it would be a little scattered, wouldn't it? If you just wanted to be curious about the world and you started a show where you're like, let's talk about, let's go look at interesting things. It's like, well, what kind of interesting things? Where do you want to start talking about history? You have to have a focus. You have to have an angle. Every story needs an angle. What's your angle on telling this tale? Getting if you're a journalist, you're writing a story about pretty much anything. What's your angle? What are you saying in the story? And how are you going to approach, your topic? And quilts are my angle. And quilts are our angle for looking at the world. And that was Eric blowing his nose. I don't know if you heard it, but that's what that was. So yeah, I want to learn about everything. I want to know about philosophy and art, and I want to know about history and all kinds of things. Culture all over the world. But that's kind of a lot, it's kind of overwhelming. But if you take the angle of the quilt and look at the world by looking at quilts, well, now you have a way in, now you really have a way in, and you can look at these awesome objects. And everything's so noisy. This man is coughing out there, door slamming. I'm trying to be brilliant. If you take a look at quilts and you follow their history and you look at their their stories and the way they're constructed and where they're made and how they're made and the people who make them and the people who keep them and collect them, or the people who cut them up into clothes. When you look at the story of the quilt and the stories behind the quilts, it takes you everywhere. And I'm very, very lucky to have this really groovy topic in my life. I make quilts, but I became a quilt nerd years ago when I realized that there are way more than just pretty blankets. And if they were just pretty blankets, that would be great. We need pretty blankets, but there's so much more. And they are that avenue, directly, they provide avenues directly into pretty much everything you want to know. And you think, if you think that's not true, you just watch this Quilt Nerd show and you'll see. Wesley's in the house. Mark Wesley's in the house. You know what, Mark Wesley? There were two really cute guys in my, at the time we thought they were the bee's knees. It was Mark something and Wes something. It was Mark and Wes. If I thought harder, I could think of their last names, but why do that? Would that be doxing? I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, they were like, every girl had a crush on them. And I mean, I didn't even have a crush on them because they were so out of my league. I was just like, I don't even think Wes is that cute. Like, but you make me think of, in a good way, just you sound cute and popular. Mark Wesley, I don't know. But you are popular around here because you said this show is kind of like a video magazine, and I like that a lot. Hey, Kay. We're so glad that when you can catch it live as well. If you're watching on the replay, I'm thrilled that you're watching. And let's ignore my post-gym hair and let's do this. Okay. Yeah, I got to keep my arms in. Okay, now we go to, look at this. I'm still in the green screen. I might be a little bit too big. I don't want to cover up the content. Let me make myself smaller. Sorry. Okay. I think that's okay. If I'm covering up, if I'm too big, that's lame. So, okay. So what is this quilt we're looking at? This is a detail of the quilt we're going to look at, actually. And I'm going to read, this might come up. Okay. So I'm going to read from this article about the quilt maker. And yes. Oh, no, this is, okay, now this is the full, hang on, is that right? Yes, this is the full quilt. Is that true? Hang on. I want to make sure that that's true. So, because it looks a little bit, well, this might be the picture. This might be the full picture that I have. Let me just double check. Oh, okay, yeah. Enter full screen. Okay, yes, that is the full quilt. It is very cut off, but I believe that, anyway, it's the picture I have, and now I'm going to tell you about the person who made it. I saw this picture months ago, very randomly. It's how I usually find things, as I'm looking for one thing, and I go down the rabbit hole and just end up completely, not forgetting the thing I was looking for, but just finding some wonderful pocket of quilt nerdery elsewhere, and then I have to make another folder in my desktop, and I have to tell all of you all about it. And so, so this quilt I found totally by chance, looking for something else, and I had to know more, and it took me a minute to find out who this was, but I did. Okay, so the person's name is Elizabeth Talford Scott. Elizabeth Talford Scott. And this quilt it's contemporary, okay? So it was made within the last, I couldn't find, see, here's the thing. I found an article about this person, but this particular image, I don't know. It's called Plantation. Did I get a year on it? Yeah, 1980. Okay, good. Whew. It's called Plantation. It was made in 1980 by Elizabeth Talford Scott. Okay. So this is an article in artnet.com about an exhibit that was up in 2020, okay, of Elizabeth Talford Scott's work. And I've got some more pictures of her work to show you while I read through this. So this is from artnet.com. Let me make sure I can see the chat. It's okay. Yeah. Sujan. Hey, Myra. I got a green screen. I mean, you can probably tell, but, Sujan, the quilt makes you happy. Agreed. And, it's so not perfect that it's perfect. I could not agree more. Stars I find very difficult to cut out and sew down. So these stars are like, I wish my stars could look like this. I don't want them to look perfect, but they don't look this good. These stars are irregular, you could say. Mine are just kind of bad, Okay. So the article is called, She had an improvisational spirit and rascally ways. See the sculptural quilts of pioneering American textile artist Elizabeth Talford Scott. And it says Elizabeth Talford Scott Upside Downwards. That's the name of the exhibit. Is on view now as part of the Goya Contemporary Gallery's 20th anniversary programming. So this was in 2020, okay? So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on this quilt so we can kind of check out. I mean, look at the quilting. It's really, really cool. I'm going to read to you some of this and then show you some more of her work. So to call the art that Elizabeth Talford Scott makes quilts, quote unquote, is not entirely right. At least it doesn't tell the full story of the master folk artist's patchwork textiles, which are richer in detail than most paintings, much less the blankets on your bed. Martha Max Kahn, founder of the Goya Contemporary Gallery in Baltimore, which represents the late artist, points to an untitled 1990 work by Scott, which incorporates beads, rocks, netting, and shells in addition to fabric. We'll see that work next. Quote, "This is not just a quilt," unquote. The gallerist tells ArtNet News. Okay. That's always an interesting thing. You know, it's not just a quilt. And then, of course, these aren't your grandmother's quilts. You know how I feel about that. So annoying. Okay. Hey, Terry Meg's here. Terry Meg, I missed you. Hey, Terry Meg. I'm so sorry I missed you. But I'm glad you're here. Okay, so this is Flower Garden 1. That's the name of this particular work, okay? So you can see sculptural quilts. And I was so interested because when I saw that first quilt, when I saw this one, the one that was on the screen, and I just couldn't stop looking at it. So then when I finally found her, I saw, you know, there's a lot of this sculptural beaded textile. I mean, it's interesting. We don't, you know, and something we don't talk about a lot, or we haven't yet, is, you know, textile art with quilted elements and elements of, you know, textile art within, like, where is the line? And I'm not saying what's the art versus craft debate. That's sort of something else. But I mean, like when does a quilt become textile art? Because that is a genre of art, right? I mean, is a studio art quilt textile art? Like, no, it's so widgy, right? It's like, how do we figure these things out? But that's a conversation I would love to have with you all. And this is the kind of piece that would be a really good one to look at. So with this, right? This one in particular. So this is still E. Talford Scott. And, you know, there are works at Sakwa, you know, there are works at studio art quilt shows and that have embellishment, have sculptural elements, you know. At what point is it textile art or a studio art quilt? I mean, it's sort of like a specific area, a very specific area within the larger art quilts art or craft discussion, I think. Sort of, it's a nuanced part of that. It's very weird. Okay. So we're back here just a little bit. Within her quilts, sorry, this is a quote from Max Kahn, who's the curator, the founder of Goya Contemporary Gallery in Baltimore. So Max Kahn continues, within her quilts, she used historical symbols and handed down ancestral ideas in the form of storytelling. Let's zoom in here. A personal spirituality with active, purposeful use of varied materials brings her art into the realm of sculpture, unquote. I mean, it's interesting. We're going to talk about, forgot to talk about the group quilt, but we'll do that after this. I mean, should we have sculptural elements in our quilt? I mean, I don't know. Maybe we should talk about it. What is a sculptural element? Is trapunto sculptural? Or is it just stuffing, you know? I don't know. I don't have an answer. Don't look to me for answers. Okay, I love this piece. I think it's great. It's great. A new exhibition of Scott's work is on view now. This was in 2020. This was a couple years ago now, or last year. By the way, this work was made in 1990, and it's untitled. Right. The show Upside Downwards at Goya includes 20-some artworks that the artist made between the early 80s after her daughter was grown and her death in 2011 at age 95. Wow. So this woman passed it at age 95 in 2011. Remember, I don't think I said it before. I discover things with you. I find a bunch of stuff. I gather what I go to like the chicken coop and like gather a bunch of eggs, and then I come and I share the eggs with you and we talk about it together. But I don't like examine all the eggs that I find. I don't like that metaphor at all. At all. It's terrible. Strike it from the record. I just go find stuff and then I bring it to you and then we look at it together. How about that? How about that? Yeah. Eggs. Okay. So her daughter, there's a quote from her daughter here. I remember my mom used to quilt and do beadwork while watching soap operas on TV after she retired, or previously in the evening after she came home from work, says Joyce J. Scott, Elizabeth's daughter, and a MacArthur grant-winning artist herself. Oh, really? Cool. Joyce J. Scott. Look at this. This is great. Are these ties? Is that what we're looking at? Maybe, probably. Wow. So her daughter, too. The younger Scott is also on Goya's contemporary roster. Awesome. Oh, yeah. This is called Tie Quilt number 2, by the way. We'll look at tie quilts sometime. That's a whole thing. 1991. Quote from her daughter. Quote, we'd sit and listen to the radio, or when I was very young, we would look at the screen on that minuscule television and both quilt. Talk about funny things, make dolls, and have a good time. Unquote. This is great. I like this very much. This reminds me of the first quilt, that was the first quilt on my green screen. You always remember your first quilt on your green screen. I love this. Here's this wonderful shape, It's really great. Look at this. Look at the way this is, these little triangles. Just tossed, right? They just seem tossed like confetti or crisps, nacho crisps. But yeah, I mean, I love this a lot. I think it's great. And you see like that sculptural element. I mean, it I don't know the thickness of it, but it seems thick, right? Like up here. Doesn't it seem like it's almost like a comforter or so? You know what I'm saying? Do you feel that? You seeing that? I gotta refresh my chat. It's interesting. It's interesting. And this down here is great. I mean, what is going on here? Sorry, I'm gonna wait. Okay, yeah, sorry, my chat had to keep up. Okay, Susan R. Michael says, I know quilt versus textile is a thing for me. I typically label as fabric art category. Okay, like in a competition, you mean? Like when you're submitting to a show or a contest? Fabric art category, but textile is in the context somewhere. Tell me if I'm wrong about interpreting your comment in that way. Yeah, the daisy motif. Holmes, totally. Thank you for pointing that out. It's great. Well, I juried a show. Can I say which one it was? Well, I shouldn't, even if I could. But I mean, there was an art quilt, category. It was a pretty big quilt show. And the jurors and I, my fellow jurists, really, I mean, we were like, at what point, really, at what point does a quilt show, become a fiber art, textile art show? Because those particular quilts, I mean, they were like thread painted, like all thread. It was like they were quilted because it was thread painting. And if we should look at some thread painting. I mean, look, this show will never end. It'll never end as long as I'm around. Thread painting. There's a million things to talk about and look at. So, it was like, well, that damn art versus craft thing. I mean, it comes up a lot, but if you are using thread as I would say as your main material, I mean, it's the main material at a certain point. I mean, if you have and I always go to this example because it just seems like there's a lot of tree frogs, It just seems like there's a lot of thread painting quilts that are like toucans and tree frogs. It's just a thing. It's like a whole thing. And if the tree frog quilt that you're doing is basically you've taken a photograph, and this is cool. Like, I can't do this stuff. Whatever. It's your art. Go for it. I have no judgment here. But if you're taking a photo and then sort of transferring that photo or creating that photo using computers and digital technology, which is totally like fine, whatever, make your art. I don't care. It's amazing you can do that at all, right? So you take a tree frog picture and then you use the computer to digitize your thread to paint the picture with thread. And it's on fabric, so it's a quilt. I don't know that I agree. I mean, what? Help me. Hey! Faith subscribed at tier 1. Thank you, Faith, for subscribing for 2 months. Thank you so much. And it says 69 out of 70 still. Well, I'm going to see if I can refresh something or do something that'll make that confetti or something. Maybe we'll just have to use the confetti on this quilt. That's going to be our confetti. Faith, I really appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing. It's awesome. Padma's in the house. I'm so glad. So Padma says, hey, and Viv's here too. Hello, Viv. Just so, Viv. Viv has good advice. So, and Viv and Padma, you've probably noticed, I got a green screen. I won't talk about it every time, just this time. Yeah, okay, so Padma says, has someone defined quilt? Can't be only pieced because there's whole cloth. Okay, yes, I have an answer for that. And also Holmes says, I also see a connection between quilts and mosaic. You're using fabric instead of paper or tile. Indeed, and we looked at Romar Bearden, right, like a couple streams ago, and I was saying, collage. I mean, collage is using scraps. A collage is pieced. You could say it's pieced together, So Padma, I would say that, I would say that the definition of a quilt, it's pretty fair, and people do agree that like 2 or more layers of fabric stitched together, like two or more layers of fabric that are secured with thread. Doesn't have to be in a fabulous pattern. The 2 layers do not have to be pieced, but something is a quilt when it is quilted. And to quilt it, I mean, it's crazy. Quilt is a noun, a verb, adjective-ish. Yeah. But a quilt, my mom says, and I've probably said this a lot, a quilt isn't a quilt until it's quilted. So you can have 2 layers of fabric, together, and you could staple them together, whatever, but it's not really quilted. But when you put that needle through more than a few times and make that those 2 pieces of fabric one, then it's quilted. It's a quilted object. So for us, it's usually 3: the top, the batting, and the backing. And it's not a quilt until it's quilted. And of course, you can have a whole cloth quilt, you can have a pieced quilt, an applique quilt, all of those things. But yeah, so with that definition, right? Quilted with staples. Susan, I mean, has anyone tried it? I don't think so. Maybe it's fine. You know what? Oh my gosh. Actually, that would be a pretty cool quilting motif, wouldn't it? Like staples. But like with gray thread, like some of the moderns, you guys can figure that out. That'd be cool. Some sort of staple quilting pattern. And yeah, Mark, I mean, yeah, bound edges. That's interesting. Holmes. That's interesting. Yeah. So, Mark, you're saying that you don't think they used a rotary cutter. Do you mean the like the tree frog quilts, the thread painting ones? Padma, yes, coverlets, yeah. Coverlets or two layers sewn together, stitched together, quilted together would be a coverlet. or I feel like there's another name for that. I mean, some people call it a summer weight quilt. I've heard summer weight. Um, horse armor. Calling it back to that show not too long ago with the horse armor. Listen, if you're watching this on the playback or if you're here for the first time, you got to go to YouTube or stay here on Twitch and watch these back episodes. I mean, we're building a whole thing here, and there's really cool stuff. We look at a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, Faith's talking about this quilted horse armor from, I think it was the 1800s. I think it wasn't as old as any of us thought it was, but man, that stuff is awesome. It was so cool. Anyway, so this is sorry, we got off on our thing. That's what we do. That's the nerdy way this show is. Okay, let's go back to E. Talford Scott. Just a couple more quilts here, and then we'll move along. This is called My Dreams in 1987 to 88 is the date of it. And I'm gonna continue here a little bit. E. Talford Scott was born, and we don't have to stop talking, about the art versus, or the textile art versus art quilt stuff. I just want to keep things rolling a little bit. We're here 3 times a week, so we can talk about whatever we want, whenever we want. E. Talford Scott was born near Chester, South Carolina in 1916 on Blackstock Plantation, the same land on which her grandparents were once held as slaves. Wow, I have not read this yet, so this is all new to me. The 6th of 14 children, oh my God, she picked up a number of skills at an early age from family members. Quote, my mom's side of the family was really just a polyglot of craft people. Joyce, her daughter, explains. They were potters, they caned chairs. They were basket weavers, crocheters, knitters, weavers. They did blacksmithing. They were musicians and storytellers, unquote. That inherited history of making, an ingenuity born from learning to use and repurpose the materials around oneself, all coalesced into Elizabeth Scott's art. Her daughter continues, quote, she just spread those mediums out into her quilt work. She was beading and adding knots and crochet. She combined things that would have typically been separate techniques. Interesting. Very interesting. The lineage courses throughout Joyce's work as well. Let's see. The executive director, Amy Eva Reyes, says, quote, these multi-generational artists learned from and taught one another. They shared principles and techniques, sometimes even materials, and yet their works convey individual truths. Sharing their narratives through one program helps us underscore that Blackness is not monolithic. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's a little bit of E. Talford Scott. I just thought, it started with a quilt. The quilt that you see on your screen. This is where we started. If you just came in, this is the wonderful quilt that I just had to talk about. So had to investigate it, and it was made by E. Talford Scott in 1980. Well, watch the replay and you'll hear exactly when. Okay, so let me just see if somebody's got some stuff. Hey, Bip, hello. So glad you're here. And Susan adds to the conversation, the other deal is when art quilters are saying that we should stay away from the craft label. Well, I think Bisa Butler cut that argument to shreds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, being on the cover of Craft magazine. I mean, the problem with the whole problem with the art versus craft conversation, like the problem that's like right in front of our faces, is that, I mean, it's a hierarchy that, I mean, it's such a hierarchy that it's kind of weird. You'd almost say it's strange that, it's an interesting thing that some quilters sort of insist, like, no, we're art, quilts are art, and that, because craft would be so bad, and I'm not saying anyone who thinks, quilts are art is like, missing the point or anything, but it's an interesting thing that it's like we have to be legitimized as art because we're not going to be, ghettoized into the craft world. And I mean, ghetto in the sort of grand sense or the classic sense of being like put into this lower place somehow. Yeah, I mean, it's just like art is the thing and craft is the second place thing, and nobody wants to be that. But is that true? Craft is amazing. Craft is like is it's just its own thing and it's amazing. So the hierarchy of art and craft is, on its face, like it's baked in to be a very weird conversation, right? Told you we'd get nerdy. I told you. Yeah. Too crafty for art and not enough art for fine craft. I'm telling you. That's the way it goes. Okay, so it's Veterans Day. And I have a couple minds on this. I have 2 quilts to show you that I think are very appropriate. And then what I have for you is I went through a lecture that I gave a couple years ago. Well, it's a lecture on political quilts, and I shortened it. I tweaked it a little bit. But I think it would be really good content. I think it would be a really nerdy way to talk about, or a nerdy content for a Veterans Day show, because the veterans who have sacrificed and and have been touched by war since we became a nation, right? What are they fighting for? They're fighting for us, and they're fighting for our right, basically, to have political ideas and to do what we want, and to be free and, all this American stuff, right? And so to talk about political quilts, to me, seems like it could be good. And it's a lecture that I haven't done in a while, but when my mom and I were in Budapest a couple weeks ago, or a week ago or so, we pulled out a lecture that we hadn't done in a while, and it went pretty well. So I think I'll do that. I think I'll go through the political quilt lecture. They're good slides. They're great quilts, and I think that'll work. So, but before we do it, I found this quilt. I found this blog post. This woman. I mean, this quilt is crazy amazing. So here's what it is. I've got a bunch of pictures. It's a blog post. Oops, from this gal. No. You saw well, all right. Just get a green screen. You think everything gets fixed, but it doesn't. Okay. So this I found again by looking around, just letting my fingers do the walking. And I'm so glad I get to share it with you. That's why this show exists, because I don't want to find this awesome stuff and keep it all to myself. So this comes from a blog, Rachel Rabbit. And I'll put the link in the Discord. We have a Discord. That's another thing about, that's business we'll talk about in a little bit. I'll put the link to this in our Discord episode guide, episode notes. Rachel Rabbit, and she is, she has a flag of the United Kingdom on her blog here up in her little logo. So I think she is living in the country that I am living in right now. Yes, here is her about page. She has 3 children. Sorry, I'm just seeing if she says where she lives. No, we can learn more about her. But for now, we're going to look at this quilt that she made. So this is from a blog post in 2015. It's going to blow your mind. And the blog post is titled Memorial Quilt, Fallen Soldier. And so I'm going to read you this and go through these pictures. There's probably 12 pictures, 10 or 12. Hey, Terry Meg! Terry Make subscribed with Prime. Terry, you did it. We reached the goal of 70 subscribers. Hey, Eric. I'll tell him later. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Terry, you found it. I'm so glad. Thank you for subscribing. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Yes. Okay. All right. Memorial Quilt, Fallen Soldier from 2015 from Rachel's blog. I have been working on a memorial quilt for the daughter of a colonel who lost his life while serving in Iraq. When I received the box of clothes, I was more than moved at the items that I had been sent. Included in the box was his favorite shirt, a red, white, and blue Ralph Lauren cotton shirt, his camouflage jacket, a blue polo shirt, and his dress uniform, in which he walked his daughter down the aisle when he gave her away at her wedding, black dress jacket and blue trousers with gold ribbon stripe. Y'all, this might be really tough. I haven't read this either. Okay. So here's the quilt, and this is what I saw first when I was looking around, and I was like, what? Look at this. Look at this quilt. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, honestly, like, I don't even know what to say. The camouflage around, it's like crazy. It's so beautiful. And it's his clothes. I just cannot. I mean, you've seen, quilts made from people's clothes, and, it's not easy to do it because she's working with a polo shirt and like uniform material and like a dress code. I mean, it's just like, that's just really hard to do. I've never even tried it because it just seems really difficult. And then you get this design and this execution. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. And you can probably see the quilting on it. I just like don't even want to talk because it's so amazing. You see that? We're going to see a lot more of the quilting here in a second. It's so wonderful. I mean, I just cannot. Yeah. God. Okay. Sorry. Bring it in a little bit here. It's love. Yeah. Whew. So there's some detail shots here. Yeah, I mean, look at the feathers. I mean, look at the quilting in there. That's just ridiculous. That is ridiculous. It's so it's sublime. It's just absolutely, it's just amazing. Amazing. Oh my God, it's crazy. Yeah, Quilt Church indeed. Yeah, same, Ivana. Okay, let me read you a little more here. Each star point is made from the gold ribbed ribbon that went down the side of the dress pants. Okay, nope, don't look at that yet. Wow. That's the gold ribbed ribbon that went down the side of the dress pants. Are you kidding me? This woman. If there were any fabric remains, the family had asked for a pillow or a doll. We had enough fabric for both. Okay, and I have a picture of that, but I'm going back to this. I mean, are you for real right now? I've got another picture of the quilting and a couple more of the quilt. Okay. Okay. So the pillow has many of the patches. So to reiterate, she said if there were any fabric remains, the family asked for a pillow or a doll. We had enough fabric for both. A pillow or a doll. That's awesome too. I mean, I never thought about, that's great. The pillow has many of the patches that I took off the camouflage jacket. The doll is made from some of the camouflage jacket and shirt material. Her hat is made from a cuff. Are you serious with this? Her hat is made from a cuff from the camouflage jacket, and I added some gold buttons from the black dress jacket. My girls were cuckoo over this doll. I'll go back to the other one. And kept coming to ask where the doll was, to stare at her and ask when they would get a doll too. This is the pillow. The backing is... okay. Okay, yeah, then I've got a picture of the quilting. I mean, this is just like... From his clothes. Look, that's the quilt, the pillow, and the doll, all from that fallen soldier's clothes. You know? His uniform. I mean... And what he wore when his daughter got married. Like... Now, you go ahead and tell me, that, like... Quilts are just pretty blankets, right? Okay, yeah. So she says the backing of the quilt is flannel and the batting is wool. Even with the dense quilting, the quilt was not stiff. And this is a shot of the back of the quilt for those of us who are obsessed with seeing the back of a quilt too. Yeah. We know her. We know her. And, it's interesting, though. I saw a quilt once. I forget who it was. Look at the... Oh, no. Really? With this, like, peacock thing? Look at that in here. Or, like, it's like a lamb, like a sheep's wool or something. And then these feathers. Anyway. So I saw a really textural quilt. I mean, it had a lot of texture to it. It had 2 layers of wool batting in it. That's what I remember. And the quilting was pretty tight, but it had like, it looked almost like it was stuffed, almost. Not quite, but because there were 2 layers of wool in there and it wasn't tightly quilted all over, there were, like circles and things where the batting was free to kind of puff up. And that was interesting. It was quite textured, right, with 2 layers of wool. Anyway, I just thought about that. And then the flannel on the back and the wool bat, it's interesting. And she said it was still soft, It was not stiff. Sorry, it was still not stiff. And then the last 2 pictures are... She says, once the quilt was folded up and ready to go home, it looked so regal. I felt quite overwhelmed. Yeah. I do hope that the family loves it. Yeah. So, just amazing, right? So that is that little story, that incredible story for Veterans Day today. And then there's another thing I want to share with you, and that is this. So I don't know if you know of this, and I didn't have time to go and, well, I actually did. I did look for more pictures of this quilt, and there weren't really good ones online. This quilt has appeared in lots of news articles, but there's no good flat shot of it as far as I can tell. Watch, it'll be like at the International Quilt Museum or something, and I will have completely missed it. But I think that it needs like a really good flat shot of it. Anyway, I would have liked to find one. So this is a quilt that is that honors fallen soldiers. 2010. Let's go full screen here. I haven't read much about it. I found a few things, like I said, and then I brought them to you. So continuing its nationwide, so this is from 2010, continuing its nationwide journey, paying tribute to fallen service members from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Lost Heroes quilt was on display at the Fort Carson Post Exchange over Memorial Day weekend. So this is from Army.mil, U.S. Army. It takes your breath away, Ivana, same. And the quilt features childhood portraits of 82 fallen service members and was created by Julie Feingold, artist Julie Feingold, in 2009 to honor fallen heroes. To honor fallen heroes, educate the public, remember their sacrifices, open hearts and minds, exhibit across the nation, and support the families, according to the Lost Heroes Art Quilt website. What? Okay, I'm gonna check that out. Hang on. That might have pictures of it. So let me just look at a couple of these. There's 4 pictures in this. It's huge, right? It's really big. It's really, really big. And I don't know if that's the woman or not. So anyway, I'll put the link in the Discord. No website there. I mean, I can read this. I'll read a little bit more of this. Sorry, I don't like to just read from a website sometimes, but today we have to do that. The fact that the Lost Heroes quilt was on display at Fort Carson over Memorial Day weekend was no coincidence, said Nandy Hecker, a Gold Star mother who schedules venues for the quilt and edited the companion book. Okay, I bet that's the lady that we saw. Do this real quick. Oops. Just pull that picture up. It's really, really, really cool. Wow. Okay, sorry. The families, quote, "The families here have borne the brunt of the casualties in the war, and I felt it was important to be down here for Memorial Day," said Hecker. She noted the quilt features 5 soldiers whose names are among the 335 on the Mountain Post Warrior Memorial near Gate 1, and 5 service members whose parents are members of the Pikes Peak chapter of the American Gold Star Mothers. The 15 by 15 quilt features childhood photos of 82 fallen service members, 50 in the center of the quilt representing each of the United States and providing glimpses into the lives of the heroes. Hecker's son, Major William F. Hecker III, oh, that's him. Oh, represents Missouri. He was killed by an improvised explosive device, IED, January 5th, 2006, while serving with the 3rd Battalion, 16th Field Artillery Regiment, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 4th Infantry Division, then at Fort Hood, Texas. Another 32 fallen service members flank the quote at the top of the quilt, which is, "Without a witness, they will disappear." Hecker said since Feingold couldn't create a quilt with squares to honor all the fallen service members who gave the ultimate sacrifice in America's response to the 9/11 attacks, the artist reached out to the American Gold Star Mothers for assistance. She asked for input from the fallen service members' mothers, looking for a hero to represent each state. She took the first mother that volunteered, Hecker said. She didn't want to turn anybody away. So when there were duplicates for some states, she added an additional 32 heroes on the top border of the quilt. Oh, wow. You see that? You see up here, these guys? Oh, wow. They're childhood pictures, y'all. It's beautiful. Feingold saw a casualty list one day and began to wonder, who are these young men and women who put their lives on the line for the rest of us and the freedoms we all enjoy here, Hecker said. It was important to Feingold to show them. Hang on one second. I'm going to do this. Just going to get a couple more images for you here. Hang on. It was important. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Thanks for being patient. This was the one I really wanted to talk about, but I didn't have time to like get a ton of stuff, isolated for you. But here, now we have some things. Oh, that's at the Folk Art Museum. That's pretty good. It's low resolution, but at least it's the whole thing. It was important to Feingold to show these soldiers as real people with hopes and dreams and families that love them, not just statistics, she said. Feingold used childhood pictures that Hecker said, quote, surprise the viewer and touches the heart, unquote, and extracted key words from the mother's stories to bring the fallen heroes to life on the quilt. She said the artist's intent was that if people viewing the quilt learn just one hero's story, that fallen service member will not be forgotten. South Dakota, wow. For those, quote, for those of us who have lost someone in Iraq or Afghanistan, their remembrance is a big thing. We don't want our kids to ever be forgotten. So this is a wonderful gift to us and to our entire country not to forget them, for future generations to know the price of freedom, and to show the character and dedication of those who serve in the military. She said that many of the mothers wrote that their children always wanted to be in the military, and since numerous parents mentioned that their boys liked to play with military action figures, Feingold spent 2 years acquiring the action figure jackets for the quilt. Oh my God! Did you hear this? Did you hear that? The little coats are action figure jackets. Yeah. Thank you for your son's service. Thank you, your son, for his service. Oh, I'm falling so. Oh my God, I'm sorry. So I didn't read that fully. Thank you for your sacrifice, for your whole family. I mean, I'm sorry I didn't read that right. Yeah. Okay. I'm just blown away. Sorry about the action figure thing and just everything that I'm seeing here. Okay. The crosses in between the hero squares. Okay, these yellow crosses. Thanks, Sue. Sorry about that. Between the hero quilt squares honor those who served in World War I and World War II, while the action figure uniforms honor those who fought in Vietnam. Recognizing that many mothers wrote their faith, helped them through the grieving process. I'm not sure. I think that maybe Feingold included. Recognizing that many mothers wrote that their faith helped them through the grieving process. Feingold included a cross for Christianity, a Jewish Star of David. Hang on, we gotta find a picture maybe that would show that. All right, I'm gonna try this. Included a cross for Christianity, the Jewish Star of David, the crescent symbol of Islam, and the Om symbol of Hinduism in the four corners. Okay. Paying homage to the African American quilters during the Civil War, who made quilts with secret messages to alert fellow slaves where the next safe house was located, allegedly, the artist embedded, doesn't matter in this context, of course, the artist embedded, quote, a destiny for valor, unquote, hidden message in the quilt. Wow! Amazing! Chief Warrant Officer 2, John River, 2nd Battalion, 77th Field Artillery Regiment, 4th Brigade Combat Team, 4th Infantry Division, was quite emotional after speaking with Heckler about the quilt June 1st. Quote, it opens you up and lets you really understand the severity of what's going on with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, said River, unquote, who returned to Fort Carson from a year-long deployment to Afghanistan less than 48 hours prior to visiting the PX. Quote, it brings more into focus what people are doing and the dedication that they have to the military services. Hecker said she has a passion to share the stories of those represented on the quilt. She said, quote, "We want to tell our sons and daughters stories," she said. "We can't change what happened, but we can make sure we honor those who serve and that our kids aren't forgotten," unquote. So. Okay. So, thank you, veterans. And of course, the Quilts of Valor program is amazing. If you don't know about it, I'll put the link in the Discord. Quilts of Valor awards quilts to those service people and their family, people who have been touched by war is how they define it. And the people are awarded a quilt. They're wrapped. The veteran, the service person is wrapped in a quilt in a ceremony. It's amazing. Who has done maybe one of the Quilts of Valor? Anybody out there? Yeah, I'm with you, Sue. Totally. Yeah. Has anybody done a Quilt of Valor? Yeah, Ivana, you have. It's pretty powerful stuff. It's pretty amazing. I mean, they've awarded, it's going on like 400,000 quilts at this point, and it's just very, very powerful. And my mom told me, she said she's given a quilt before. Maybe she heard this story at an award ceremony or whatever. But she said, one man, a service person, a veteran who fought in Vietnam, said that when he got his quilt, it was like the first time anybody had thanked him. And so it's really, it's there's nothing not good about making a Quilt of Valor. like it is an unqualified, fantastic thing to do. You're telling a service person that you appreciate them, and you are making a quilt. Cool. Okay, win-win. And then you're giving a gift. Okay, cool. Triple win. So I've made one, but it's been a long time since I did. So let's take a look at Quilts of Valor. And if you a pictorial quilt, that could be really cool. Like, hearts and like little flags, if you're getting your pictorial quilt, your story quilt game on, and you need to, work out some different blocks and make some different stuff to have some fun with that technique, that could be awesome. Be a great Quilt of Valor. Those bicentennial quilts, a lot of those, so many of them were pictorial. So many of them were. So you could go and nerd out on bicentennial quilts and find some really awesome shapes, George Washington and all of that. But you could make a really, really amazing pictorial quilt as a Quilt of Valor. That could be awesome. Really good. So, yeah, right on. So that's what that is. So we talked about Elizabeth Talford Scott. We've talked about Rachel's Rabbits, that amazing quilt. And now I'm going to share some material about political quilts. And I think you'll enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope I can get it right. I think I can. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll be back with political quilts. And I think, there's just a lot of great quilts to look at, and I have a theory, of course. So I'll share with you my theory about political quilts. And if political quilts sounds like, I'll go over it. Some people are like, political quilts, like quilts have always been political, and who cares? That can be a response to, the argument that quilts shouldn't be political, right? Keep your politics out of my quilts. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but I've heard that. Not because I make political quilts, but because I, nerd out about quilts and think about them a lot. And I hear people say, keep your politics out of my quilts. And that is a provocative thing to say. So we're going to take a look at it, think about it, and just keep the nerd train going, Okay, thanks everybody. I'll be right back. The music might not play. I don't know what's going on, but Just imagine it in your head, the gospel music. Okay. Okay. All right. We're back. Look, gotta. Oh, see, there goes my hand. I still gotta keep it tight. Keep it tight. Folks, I did want to say a couple things about. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Yeah. Okay. I've got a couple things business-wise. One is there were someone last stream, and I put this in the Discord, was talking about how it's a real pain to get into the chat. You have to do a two-factor authentication. Authentication? Yeah. In order to be able to chat in this chat room. And I do need to make sure. I'm going to check the setting on something, because there might be another. Anyway, you have to put a phone number, right, with your Twitch account in order to be able to chat. I mean, I don't think it's every time. You all can tell me that, but you have to authorize your account basically, and you don't have to do two-factor authentication if I don't make that a requirement. Like I can take that requirement off. I can say no, anyone can chat in Quilt Nerd chat room, even if they don't have two-factor authentication or whatever. But I think it's important, and I know it's like another step, and it's like, oh, I just want to comment on this cool quilt, and I have to do this thing. But it keeps the show safer, because it means that you have to really want to chat in this room, in this community, right? To have that privilege, right? You gotta show that you really want to be here. And a troll isn't. Another way to say this is that a troll probably won't do that, or if it's a bot or something, it can't do that. So in general, like it's a little annoying, but it's far better for our whole experience here. And so thank you for going through it. I will check. There's a setting that can sort of, make a person, like it'll keep a person from chatting until they've, had two-factor authentication for a week or something like that. And that's a lot. And so I'm going to make sure that's not turned on. But in general, it's a better thing. Yeah, I know. It's just a lot of stuff, right? The subscriptions and the whole thing. Thank you all. You're early adopters. Either way, I appreciate you doing the stuff. Yeah, it's just oh God. Okay. Hopefully, I wrote an email, by the way. I wrote an email to two people at Twitch, audience development people, both ladies, and I don't know if I'll ever hear back from them. And the only way I could contact them was through LinkedIn. And so I don't know. Sometimes LinkedIn, I forget about LinkedIn sometimes. And then I think, oh dear, I better go check my messages, my DMs or whatnot. I'm not sure if people use LinkedIn. I don't use it too much, but in my line of work, I don't really have too much of a cause to. But I emailed these two women who work at Twitch, and they work with audience development. And I'm like, look, my name's Mary. You don't know who I am. My channel is very small. But there are so many quilters out there. There are so many quilters, and so many quilters are, they really love quilts. They really love them, and they make them, and there's millions of us. And I think, I think we should talk. If you want to talk to me, I could tell you a lot about this huge audience that exists for quilt content on a platform that is not YouTube, where it's not, you can live stream on YouTube, but it's more for videos. It's just a different world on Twitch, and like live streaming quilting and live streaming workshops and things here on Twitch just makes so much sense. So I sent him an email and I was like, you want to have a conversation? And I don't know. It was a real shot in the dark. So we'll see if they get in touch and want to talk about quilters and how to make this experience really great for the user, and make things easy and all that. If I can talk to them, I will talk to them about all those things. Yeah, Alistrina, So yeah, issues with hate raids. Yeah, there's a thing called, you can raid a channel here on Twitch, and it means that all your viewers, like, you go raid another channel that's live. So you just all jump over to that channel and either subscribe. The good thing about a raid is that another quilt channel could raid me, and then it would bump my followers, and maybe people would subscribe, and you sort of raid this channel. But you can raid it and cause trouble, right? You can raid it and it's awful because you get a bunch of trolls at once. And so two-factor authentication it's a barrier to that. So anyway, oh, cool. Pat Sloan is a guest that would be helpful. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Pat Sloan I would love to have her on the show. That would be great. She's on the list. I've got a long list, and she's on it. Oh, and the solar system quilt that we showed a couple streams ago, she had a sew along. That's great. Yeah, she's really cool. Very cool lady. All right, so here is the scoop. Oh, the other thing here. Okay, so the two-factor thing. Talk about two-factor authentication and the group quilt. We're going to talk about at the end. We're going to talk about the end because I want to get to the stuff. We're going to talk about the group quilt, and then also we're going to talk about one thing on the Discord. And that's it. That's it. So I gave this lecture at QuiltCon. Whoops. No, I don't want to share. I want to present. I gave this lecture at a lecture on political quilts at QuiltCon some years ago. And then this past year, I gave a tour of political quilts at the International Quilt Museum. Hang on one second. I actually want to check one thing. And so I was just interested in the political quilts at QuiltCon because, giving this lecture about political quilts at QuiltCon because there are often a lot of political quilts at QuiltCon, where there's like quilts about, when the 2016 election was going on. There were a lot of Hillary quilts. I did not see many Trump quilts. And, it was like, it was causing, there was a dust up, it seemed, about these political quilts. People seeing them and being furious, right? Some quilters seeing, of course, the Hillary Trump thing was so contentious. It was just terrible in every way. But, quilters kind of saying, get your politics out of my quilts. Quilts and politics don't mix. And that was an interesting tension, right? Because it's true that quilts have been political for a long time, or I should say politics have shown up in quilts for a very, very long time. And so I was thinking about why people would get upset about seeing certain quilts with political messages or whatnot. And the more I thought about it, the more I came to my theory that political quilts have changed a lot over the years. And in the lecture, which is a little bit more, it's a fuller version of what I'm going to show you here, which is kind of a tour of political quilts that the International Quilt Museum has in their collection. But I'm going to present my theory, okay, by showing you these quilts through in this little sort of tour of political quilts. Everything will be totally clear to you as I go through, okay? So, this is the International Quilt Museum. It is in Lincoln, Nebraska, and you should go there. I think I have said that many times because I believe it is church for quilts. It's very cool. It's at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and Lincoln is a very cool town, so you should definitely go there on your next road trip through the Midwest. You should go through Winterset, Iowa, too, my hometown, and see the Iowa Quilt Museum. That would be good, too. And you could say hi to my mom. She lives there, and she goes to the post office, She goes to get, I don't know, a cup of coffee. You can see Marianne. She'll be on the show again, hopefully next week, by the way. Okay. So there's a few kinds of political quilts, all right? There are quilts that are not political, right? Oh, good. Pam Priest, I'm so glad. So there's quilts that are not political, and you kind of have to start with like the not applicable kind, right? That's, N/A. There are quilts that just aren't political. You have to have a control for this experiment, right? There are non-political quilts. And then you have some quilts that could be described or defined as patriotic quilts, okay? And we're going to look at examples of all of these. This is more lecture-y than I usually do for you all because usually it's a different kind of show, but I think this makes sense today. So there are campaign quilts too, which are different than patriotic quilts. Patriotic quilts are saying like, rah, rah, God and country, patriot stuff, that kind of patriot vibe. And then campaign quilts are, vote for this guy, right? Here's my specific quilt for this specific candidate. You've probably seen quilts like this, We talked about the Garfield and Arthur quilt just like last time, I think. Yeah. And that would be an example. And so I had to define all these types, right? I had to figure out what are political quilts, what are we talking about when we talk about them. And so another kind that I identified was policy quilts that communicate like a cause or a specific policy that the quilt maker or the group of quilt makers wanted their politicians or their lawmakers to enact, like temperance, something like that, temperance. Faith, there's been a few different quilt, like abolition quilts would be an example of policy, a political quilt about policy. And then I've got more to say about the abolitionist quilts for another time. And then you've got these quilts that communicate like an ideology. And that is where things changed I think, because, and I'll show you what I mean when we get there. So I'm going to show you examples of these things. Okay. And by the way, the person who made the quilt that was my little intro slide quilt is Mary Maxtian, and she made that in 1995. I love that quilt. It's got kind of a sculptural element to it. It's very puffy. It seems very puffy. It looks very comfortable, soft and snuggly and warm. Mary Maxtian from Alabama. Flag quilt made in 1995. Okay, thank you, Mary. It's awesome. All right, so there are quilts that are not political at all, like this quilt. And all of these quilts, remember, are in the International Quilt Museum collection. So they all belong there, and thank God they're there, right? Thank God the museum is there to protect these incredible quilts. So, Log Cabin, Star. This is a Native American Lakota or Sioux maker, probably made in North Dakota. This quilt has cultural weight. Both of them do. They have, heritage expressed, tradition expressed, but they're not political. Quilts just aren't, like, on their face. They're just not political objects. You can make them, you can put that stuff on them by being like, quilting is a feminist act. Anytime you have a quilt, it's like a feminist thing, but that's you putting that on that, and you're free to do that, but it's not inherently a political object. Spirals, Pauline Burbage, one of my favorites. We talked about her probably 9 times at this point. And Bling. I mean, have you seen this quilt? Do you know this quilt? I don't know if you know this quilt, but it won Best of Show in 2017 at QuiltCon. And yeah, we could just do a whole show on that quilt. Okay, so those are non-political quilts, right? And then you got patriotic quilts. Patriotic quilts, the eagle and the star kind of thing. That was it's a big deal, a big a traditional, like a sort of a cornerstone motif for patriotic quilts. This one is an American signature quilt. This one's really interesting. It's got it's got signatures from presidents and like really interesting people, like Bob Hope and all these different kinds of celebrities and things. It's very interesting. I don't think Elvis is on it, but I think he was asked. Anyway, so patriotic. This is Luke Haynes. This is huge, this quilt. It's 106 by 200. Interesting. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. So you could say this is a patriotic quilt, and you could say it's something else, right? You could say it's a protest quilt, depending on what the artist or the quilter says about it. It might mean something else. As we, if we just look at it here, it's it's patriotic. People might argue that, and that's okay. That's fair. Yeah, the Bling quilt is so great, right, Nosdo? Totally. Campaign quilts are something different, right? Campaign quilts are, hoping, they're trying to express their support for a certain candidate. This is a Whig Rose quilt. Gorgeous, right? Gorgeous. The Whig Party. This is a Canadian quilt. I don't know as much about the Whig Party as I probably should if I'm talking about Whig Rose quilts, because there's a lot of them out there, and it was interesting that I thought it was an American thing only, the Whig Party, but Canadian too. So yeah, this is a person making a quilt that doesn't have an explicit political message. It doesn't proclaim anything. There's not a vote for this guy on it, but it's communicating a solidarity, right, with a particular political party. And so to me, it sort of fits in the campaign quilt genre, right? And this one, oh my God, I love it. President's Wreath by unidentified artist, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I mean, is it a political quilt? Is it a campaign quilt? I think maybe there's more to this story. I haven't pulled these slides out in a while, but it might have been a fundraising quilt or something. There's a reason it's here. There's a reason. It's also just totally gorgeous. I mean, is that like a burgundy? Is that like a deep burgundy? Or is it brown? I don't know. But you know what? Burgundy, I think, like burgundy brown, that is a hard color. It can be a hard color to use. And so, wigs in England too. Interesting, Viv. Interesting. Good to know. Yeah, I need to understand the wigs. And if we wanted to get really, really nerdy, we're not going to, because, come on, we got to keep it tight on the quilts. But we could just go research the wig party for like 5 minutes and we would all be the better for it. But also Eric's making chili, so in like an hour there's going to be really good chili, so I can't be on all night. But really, like the brown, we talked about brown, using brown, not at some point, maybe last month or something, we were talking about it. But brown can be a tough color to use, you know? I mean, I like brown, but when I had a brown dress, it was such a cool dress. It was like super expensive on like super clearance, you know, from like Neiman Marcus or something. Oh man, it was beautiful. It was cut awesome. But you know, it was brown. And sometimes I just didn't want to wear it. It was like, that's why it was on clearance, you know, it was brown. And I had a lot of brown fabric at one point. Sorry, this is a digression, but I gotta say it because it might help you out someday. I had all this brown fabric and I didn't know why. I didn't know why in my stash I had so much brown. But then I realized it's because a lot of brown fabric is small print fabric. A lot of brown is like they're blenders or they are, you know, just little calicos. You know, you get a lot of brown that's like a tiny check or a tiny dot, tiny flowers. And I love small prints. That's all I use, really. I don't use big prints, big printed fabric, unless it's on the back of my quilt. So I had all this brown and I was like, oh, why do I have it? And I think it's because I'm attracted to the print more than the color, right? So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with all this brown. I was like, I'm going to make a brown quilt and it's going to be great. And what I figured out, I'll find a picture of this quilt eventually and show you. Red and brown. Red looks great with brown. And you know what else looks great with brown? I think aqua and brown. It was really working, I have to say. And aqua, this is it's another quilt moment here in terms of technical stuff. Aqua is not blue and it's not green. In fabric anyway, it's aqua. It's its own color moment. And you know, when if you have your green fabric and your blue fabric, piles of it, and you're trying to sort it into two piles, like this is green, this is blue, whatever shade they are. It's like, oh, that's blue, that's green. You get to the aqua stuff, if you put a piece of aqua fabric in your blue pile, it doesn't fit there. It's just clearly not blue. And then you put it into the green pile, it's not green either. Aqua is its own color in quilts. And aqua and brown, awesome. I gotta tell you. Aqua and I thank you. Thank you. Teal. Well, yeah, teal. I mean, I think teal and aqua, I think it's the same thing. I mean, when I think of teal, I think of the same thing, although I know teal is like a little darker probably than aqua. But all of the shades in the teal and aqua land, totally different. Totally different. Okay, anyway. So that quilt is great, and it's red, and it's brown, and I think it's gorgeous. And that green, that faded green. So that kind of like dun color, like here, this like this real faded part of the leaves. I think that looks great too, like a really pale khaki. Okay, here's another campaign quilt. Donkeys. I love this quilt. Donkeys show up a lot, actually. There's a lot of donkeys and a lot of elephants. Old school. This is from the 40s. 40 to 50 is like the time period on this. Caitlin says, my mother made a lovely pink and brown Drunken Path quilt back in the early 2000s. Yes, pink and brown. Yes. We talked about Laura Ingalls Wilder yesterday, or Tuesday. I remember like Laura had a pink and brown dress, and Mary, her sister, had like a blue and brown dress or something like that. Interesting. I love this quilt. Look at this quilt. This quilt is crazy. It's called Original. It's original design by an unidentified artist made in 1936 in Kansas. And there's a story behind it that I don't remember from my tour, but it was a campaign quilt. It's a campaign quilt. I'll pull it up, but let's get through these. But it's here for a reason. It's like a very political act, making this quilt, a campaign quilt. It fits, trust me. I don't know why. And I was looking through these slides, just running through them really quickly before I went live. And for some reason, and it worked at the time because I put a lot of work into these slides, I felt like I had to put Cardi B in there. Probably because I said it looked like graffiti, or it looked like, this quilt looked so, look how cool that quilt is. It's like, it just looks awesome. So I was listening to Cardi B while I was doing my slides. It's all coming back to me. I remember now. I was listening to Cardi B for days, making these slides and making my QuiltCon lectures. And that's what I did. I put Cardi B in it. She's fabulous. Okay, look at this quilt. Look at this quilt, y'all. This quilt has a story. Now, one of the things that's kind of strange about political quilts in our day is that a lot of the political quilts that I've seen out there are expressing support for a left or Democrat candidate in the campaign quilt world, right? Or ideologically, which we'll get to in a second. Like it's a progressive-ish vibe. Now, it's a progressive vibe, okay? With like the political quilts that I see them at QuiltCon. I see them, Instagram. I don't know what political quilts you see out there, but when I saw this, I know. I'm not a fan, okay? But we are just here to look at the quilts, not discuss anything else. Okay, so I'll just keep it to this, is that when I saw this quilt, my mouth dropped open. I saw it on, I think it was either Etsy or eBay. I can't remember which. But I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I bought it. Actually, I had Eric buy it because I didn't want my name on it. I didn't want my name on that order form. Damn it. I'm sorry. I bought it because I needed to give, yeah, exactly. I needed it because it's a piece of history that is remarkable. And let me tell you something. When I got it so that I could give it to the International Quilt Museum. And because, oh my God, right? There's a lot going on here. We can talk about it and we're going to. But the actual, anyway, okay. It doesn't just say Trump 2020. And I honestly am not going to say it out loud because but below the Trump 2020 is this letter of the alphabet, which is this cult, right? I mean, it blows me away that this is a thing that we are dealing with. I don't understand it. I'm completely flabbergasted, obviously, rendered speechless when I think about all of that. And not only is that on the quilt, also the plus sign, I didn't know what that meant, but apparently there are folks, certainly the maker of this quilt, believe that Trump is letter of the alphabet plus, that he is in charge of that cult. I don't know, but that there's, I don't know. You can look it up if you want to, but erase your search engine history. It's just bananas. And so not only was it a campaign quilt for a conservative president, which I just don't see them. I don't ever see them. And you know how much I look at quilts. I look at a lot of stuff. And oh no, the write down. Oh no, your partner joined the cult. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh God. 20 years? I'm very, very sorry. No, it's not TMI. It's reality, right? It's reality. It's ripping families apart. It's ripping people apart. And I said I wasn't going to get political and stuff, but I draw the line at that business. It's people are getting used. People are being used by, people who are putting false information out on the internet. Good people who are curious, right? People who are curious and they want to find out the truth about this and that, and they want to discover things, and they're what does this actually mean? And that's good good curiosity. It's awesome. It's like that drive to know more and question and like question authority and like find out for yourself. I love that. What is this show about? It's about that. But there are people out there who are bad people, and they are putting false information. These people are like so curious about stuff, and then there are bad actors putting falsehoods in their hands, right? And then people get so confused and they start believing in things that aren't true. And so it's like, I just see people who go with this business, this letter of the alphabet business. I mean, it's like, they're not bad people. Like they're just, we're all the same. We're trying to figure stuff out and like make sense of the world. And that is a beautiful thing to cultivate. But they get fed this garbage, these lies online. And so it's a disaster anyway. Veterans Day, right? Like, fought for freedom to burn it all down, I guess. I don't know. Feels like that sometimes. Anyway, the International Quilt Museum does not, they have over 6,000 quilts in their collection, and a lot of us have these special quilts in our lives, and we think, oh, maybe the Quilt Museum will want this particular quilt, and of course, they would love to take them all, right? But it is, they're a museum, a top-notch, state-of-the-art museum, and they are very selective about what they take, and they can only take so many things, and all of that. And so when I got this, I was like, I really hope Carolyn Ducey is going to want this quilt, because I don't really want it, but I had to get it because it's a piece of history. Thank goodness. I showed Carolyn Ducey the pictures. I was like, are you ready for this? I think you should have this in the collection. And she was like, yes, you can definitely send that. We will definitely put that in the collection, So, yes, Myra, exactly. It is not the difference of opinion. It is the conspiracies and the misinformation. I completely agree. Nope, not bad people. Not bad people at all. They're just misled. Yeah, totally. Just think if somebody could take, curiosity and drive to research and, give a person something great to look at. And quilts, give them quilts. I'm serious. Like, oh my God, the world is so big and wonderful and scary, and go figure it out. But don't ask people who are going to lie to you just for fun. It's like people lying to people for sport. Anyway. All right. Policy. This show's going on long. I gotta rein this in. So there's policy quilts. Okay. This is it's an album quilt, but it's called not the reclamation. Restoration? What's the word? What's the word I want? After the Civil War. Someone knows the name of this. Padma. Yeah. I'm down. Yes. Dee Marie's like, what is this called? What is it? Anyway, this is an album quilt. This famous, one of the most expensive quilts in the world. I think it was sold for like, I don't know, $500,000 or maybe more than that. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. Talk about a pictorial quilt, right? Amazing. But this is a post-Civil War reconstruction, right? So it's engaging with policy and, politics in that particular way. A quilt from Zimbabwe here, again, in the quilt collection, the permanent collection at the International Quilt Museum. Yeah, I know. I mean, just talking about, political quilts and pictorial quilts in this example, we have both, right? Amazing. It's just an amazing quilt. We should look at this. I've never gone block by block and really like analyzed and looked at this quilt. Yeah, I can't zoom in on this. That's why that keeps flipping slides, because I keep clicking on it so I can zoom in, and that just actually advances the slides. But yeah, political quilts telling stories about policies and enacting policy. Ruth Clement Bond. These are three really famous quilts, very, very famous. The Tennessee Valley Authority. Some of you will know your history in Tennessee in the 30s, right? Yeah, after or during the Great Depression, the Works Progress Administration, the Tennessee Valley Authority. This was an initiative to get people back to work, right? The Works Progress Administration. It's a whole thing. So interesting. So Ruth Clement Bond was an activist in her community. Beautiful. This is a relative of Sarah Bond, if you know her work. It's not her grandmother or her aunt. It was an aunt. Yeah, maybe it was an aunt. So quilting in Sarah Bond's family goes deep. But these quilts had to do with the Tennessee Valley Authority sort of promoting that. This quilt up here, Lazy Man, she's saying, don't be a lazy man, right? Go toward opportunity, go toward work and things. But there's another thing going on here, to this quilt. It's this white hand and the black figure. So there's more to say about all this. Obviously, this is a really electric image, the black fist and the lightning bolt there. So there's a lot more to say about Ruth Clement Bond too, and these quilts. They're great. I got to see one of them in person, actually. Very exciting. Okay. These are, look, Old Mother Eve, Harriet Beecher Stowe, this quilt, unidentified artist, Kansas, 1888. But these are names of, Susan B. Anthony, our foremothers, right? Some of our foremothers, and this was clearly a women's suffrage related quilt. Okay. I think so. Yeah. Wow. Wow is right. All of these quilts are wow. They're just wow. Tea quilt, the temperance quilt thing, were there quilts made that were for, promoting the cause of temperance or policy, right? Wanting to prohibit alcohol consumption in the United States or in a particular state. Yes, for sure. The T block used in this quilt is often, related to the temperance thing, or people connect the two. And there's more to that. I need to read an article that Laura Hopper wrote in Quilt Folk about the temperance quilt. I haven't read it in a while, but there's an interesting history there. It's not quite so, cut and dry as people think in terms of the T block and the temperance quilts, but certainly they are a thing. And wanting to affect policy or influence or just raise awareness about the cause of temperance by making a quilt or a group quilt to raise money for a certain thing. Temperance quilts for sure count as like policy quilts, political quilts that have to do with, changing policy or talking about policy. So then the last category is how I just kind of figured out why people get so upset with political quilts, because all the quilts we've seen so far are, the Trump quilt, the bottom half of the Trump quilt had some really, that kind of did go in a different direction, didn't it? But like, it's pretty straightforward. It was pretty straightforward for a really long time. Political quilts were, vote for this guy, or I care about this policy, I mean, it was kind of, you could look at a quilt and say, well, that's a quilt that, that person supports this cause or supports that candidate. It was kind of simple. But then this new kind of political quilt entered at in like the 1960s and the 70s. These are two quilts by Jean Ray Laurie, really famous ones. She has a lot of famous quilts, but these are, the one on the left is really famous. It's called Barefoot and Pregnant, or Senator Van Dalsum. So Senator Van Dalsum said, I'll read to you what the quilt says. It says, once upon a time, there was a senator from Arkansas. In a famous speech, he said, I'll tell you what we do up here in Perry County when one of our women starts poking around in something she doesn't know anything about. We get her an extra milk cow. If that don't work, we give her a little more garden to tend. And if that's not enough, we get her pregnant and keep her barefoot. So that's a quote from a senator from Arkansas. So Jean Ray Laurie made this quilt in 1987. So this quilt does not support, it's not a campaign quilt. It's not a policy quilt. It's not supporting a particular policy. It's not patriotic. What was the other one? And it's not campaign, patriotic. Yeah, it's none of those. But it is for sure political, right? And so when someone's like, I don't, yeah, these are beautiful quilts. Oh, totally, Myra, 1000%. Oh, Sarah's going to be at your retreat. Lucky mouse. Very, very good. I am a huge fan of that person, Sarah Bond. So this quilt is political in a new way, I would say. It's an ideologically political quilt. I mean, there's an ideology being expressed here. Now, if you look at this quilt, and the same one over here, female troubles, right? What are these the things that we would? Well, each block says something that a woman would be described as having if she was ailing. You know, she's down in bed, she's having weak spells, nothing helped me, local trouble, hurt all the time, nervous and run down. I mean, just, you know, all of these maladies that affect women that just like kind of don't get looked at or don't get studied or researched. You know, it's still going on. This quilt was made in 2000, and if you're a female who's had illnesses that no one could figure out or really cared to figure out, you probably feel something when you look at this quilt. And so both of these quilts are, you know, they're political. And if you identify, like, let's say on the quilt on the left, if you feel offended by what that senator says, if you feel a type of way about it, then you're going to understand what Jean Ray Laurie is saying in this quilt, why she would make this quilt. There's no commentary on this quilt. She doesn't have an arrow through the guy's head. She's not flipping the finger in any of the blocks. Okay. The only thing it says there at the end is it's the attribution. We keep her pregnant. Get her pregnant and keep her barefoot. Legislator Paul Van Dalsum from a speech to the Little Rock Optimist Club. That's it. So if you think that's great, if you're like a fan of the former senator, you're going to be like, wow, what a great tribute to that wonderful man. But if you don't feel that way, then you will be like, damn, like that is amazing. Like, what a cool political quilt. What a cool piece of art. So you see, it's harder to tell because it depends on where you stand on a certain thing, you know? And so here's another quilt. This is amazing. Albuquerque Foreclosure quilt. God, I want to be able to read. Okay. I don't have my notes, right? Because this is a slide from last year, but the red pieces of this quilt represent foreclosures in Albuquerque. She has a whole series of these, Catherine Clark, these quilts that she uses maps, city maps and things of foreclosures and redlined neighborhoods and things in different cities, and makes these really incredible works. You know, there's no words on this quilt, right? There's no campaign message. There's definitely, you know, patriotic. I don't think so, you know. Depends on how you define patriotic. Maybe she's doing a great service pointing out these inequities, but like it's called Albuquerque Foreclosure. So she's using the quilt as a medium for what she sees as, you know, really messed up, right? That in Albuquerque, in this particular part of Albuquerque, all of these foreclosures are happening, you know, and why. And so it makes you ask why, and it makes you interpret a thing, right? And it's a quilt, right? Hidden messages, Ivana. Let's see. Hidden messages. What do you mean? Hidden messages. Oh, let's see. Oh yeah. Let's see. Was it? Oh, are you talking about? Well, okay. So this quilt, I actually did not even There's something okay. Does anybody know? There's like a controversy. This is interesting. I had no idea I did not think that I had this. Okay, sorry. There's been a controversy of late, and all I know about it, really, is that a quilter, I think it's this quilt. Oh my God. Oh no. I don't want anything to do with this controversy. Oh God. Okay. Thanks, Ivana. I think Mr. Domestic, I think that's who it was. I think it's who it was. One quilter was like thrown shade. One quilter threw shade at another quilter inside of a quilt. Like it might be this one. And like this quilt was like widely exhibited. This particular quilt that is in the center of this controversy, like I feel like it might be this quilt where the quilter who made it like said something about another quilter who she didn't like or something. I should figure it out. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, it's in the modern quilt world. That's where the controversy has happened. Like so many controversies these days, it's in the modern quilt world. But these words that Sarah Impey has put into this quilt, it's called a post-truth quilt. I mean, there's a lot of charged language here. I just feel like this one. That quilt is white. Oh no, that's fine. Feminist. Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah. The quilt is white or feminist. The Jean Ray Laurie one, totally. And yes, Yvonne, totally. Hidden messages, how we interpret things. Yeah, the Jean Ray Laurie quilts are the politics is like a hidden message. Anyway, if anybody knows what that controversy is, maybe we should maybe we shouldn't even talk about it. But if you Google like. I think it's Mr. Domestic. If I say it and it's not him, then it's just even worse, right? Just Google Modern Quilt Guild controversy of the week. You'll find it. Okay, 2 more little quilts. Thank you all for. Oh, look! I made a cute little animation. Look at him. Look at him go. Wow, I did a really bad job cropping him out. I love that little guy though. See, there he goes. Wee. Okay. This one. It is, okay, that was the quilt. Okay, sorry, the chat's, I'm going faster than the chat. Viv, do you have any desire to say what happened? I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot. I guess I'll try to find a link to someone's blog post about it, I guess, and I'll put it in the show notes, right? Because if it's out there, it's out there. It's fine to look at it and see what all the fuss was about. But it's like if I just let it be known for the record, because now this piece of content it's already live, it's already out there, it'll be on my Twitch channel for a while, it'll be in my YouTube channel for the rest of eternity. And so now that quilt, was like in a Mary Fons lecture, so what did she know? I had no idea. No idea. There was any kind of kerfuffle brewing or in it. I mean, I guess you could really fault me for not reading the whole thing through, but I don't. Holmes found it on Reddit. Well, could you put the link in the chat so we can all just get, an opinion about it. But just please understand, I did not know it. I should have read the whole quilt. But I don't think it says like his name in it or anything. Anyway, I mean, talk about political. Oh God. Okay, the last 2 quilts, and then I don't know what's going on tonight. Things are crazy. A War for Liberty and Humanity. You know what I'll do too is I'll find this quilt record in the this quilt has an amazing story, and I'll find the record for it in the International Quilt Museum website, and I'll put it in the show notes because this is really cool. I don't totally remember what it's for. Oh yeah, and then the soldiers' quilts. We've looked at some of these intarsia quilts before. These quilts that are in there. There's a huge collection of them. Annette Jarrow has this amazing collection of these soldiers' quilts made with wool, made with their uniform, a lot of times their uniform material while they were convalescing. Many stories about these different quilts, but we looked at them once maybe a couple times in relation to the Alexander McQueen fashion designers line last year, or maybe early 2021, where he used these motifs, these intarsia motifs, in her Sarah Burton designs for Alexander McQueen. So Sarah Burton was using these motifs in her designs, and they were amazing. So this is the Holy Roman Empire Intarsia quilt by an unidentified artist, Prussia or Austria, 1846 to 1851. So, political quilt, where does it fall? I don't know. Some of these lines that I drew are totally fungible, Interesting. The Why I'm a Feminist quilt looked different than the thumbnail you had up. Interesting. Huh. I'll have to check that out, Holmes. Oh. Yeah, and there you go. International Quilt Museum. So those were all quilts from their collection. Just a little taste of my view on political quilts, and just a lot of really lovely quilts to look at. So it's Veterans Day. I wanted to go there. I really, really liked looking at those the fallen soldiers quilts with you all. I thought that was really, really powerful. And looking at that woman's I'm just going to pull this up for the last slide of the show, because this person, what she made, if you're just dropping in and you didn't see the first part of the show, I mean, this quilt was made by a woman it was a commission for a family that asked her to make a quilt out of their fallen service person's clothes. And this person, Rachel, made this from his uniform, from the ribbon that went down the side of his pants, from the suit he wore, I believe, at his daughter's wedding, and like a polo shirt. And it's just magnificent. And we looked at this. We looked at, Fallen Soldiers quilt. We looked at, which was incredible, right? Incredible, with the action figures jackets, and just amazing. And we looked at this wonderful woman who was the first quilt we looked at, the maker of it, Talford? Is that who I'm thinking of? I want to get her name right. Talford Scott. So we looked at her too. And then I took you through my little political quilt tour. And I think it was a great show. I do. Last show was so animated. I was looking back at the video, and the little clips that I saw as I scrubbed through the video, it was like, I was like a Muppet, like, blah, 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 and going like this because of the Quilters musical. So that was funny. I think I'm sitting more still this time, possibly because if I go too far on my green screen, I get cut off. Thank you all for coming. I love it so much. Eric has flagged me for dinner, and I think that's fair. In the Discord, which I can put a link to right here. Give me 2 seconds. We can talk about the quilt, the group quilt, because I want to start making my blocks too. And we just need to decide what's the block size, right? So if somebody has thoughts on that, I'll go through the Discord conversation so far, and I might select a couple people, or just ask a couple people if you'd be willing to kind of do different tasks. We need to kind of have some project management, right, for our project. So no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I'm going to put a link to the Discord, so anybody who's not there can come there. It's a little clubhouse. It's where we talk about the show. We show pictures of the stuff we're making. It's great. So you should come along and join us there. And it is my pleasure, my absolute pleasure, Sue. I am very glad you said you had the best Veterans Day in a long time, and it was special for you. It was special for me too. We're here because of them. That's it. That's the truth. And I can't believe it sometimes. I can't believe it. The sacrifice. I can't believe it. that someone would do that, you know, because I'm not doing that. I'm not putting my life on the line for my country like that. I mean, do people just think about that for 5 minutes? You know, like we're protected because of people who will do that. So happy Veterans Day to all, and best to you all, and take care, and see you soon, and see you in the Discord. I'll put the show up tonight. Okay, bye everybody. Happy Veterans Day.